apologize that I think we're going to go over time. I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but to those that are going to miss church, I apologize for that. We were trying to get everyone out to make the 11 o'clock or the 12 o'clock Catholic service. So I apologize for that. Thank you, everyone, for your understanding in regards to that. I think God will give us some special dispensation on this holiday weekend, and I don't make light of that because I take it real seriously, but a lot of online opportunities to attend the service. So I hope we'll all do that. So. But this session, boy, we got a bunch of questions from the audience. I just kind of shuffled them, and we'll just kind of offer them up to the individuals. We're going to allow 45 seconds for people to comment, and it again will only be the candidates. If it's addressed to a specific candidate, I'll ask it of that candidate.
So yes or no?
General question, I'll kind of open it up a little bit. So with that, we'll get started. First one, Claudio. Your comments, RE Short-Term Rental Committee, seem to be very specific. From where do you get your interpretation? I don't know that you were present. Is that correct?
No, I wasn't present, but I've seen comments. I've talked to people that were on the committee. I've seen comments that Mr. Mace has made on the board about how some of the challenges about the corporate ownership and some of the limitations on rental days and stuff like that. So, no, I wasn't there, but a lot of people had talked about it and provided information about it. Okay. Susan, you were there, and I think we talked about it and talked with other people. So,
I'll offer for the other candidate to offer a comment if they would like on each of the questions. So, Fred, would you like to comment?
Sure. I can kind of tell you where it started in the initial presentation of the short-term rental community. The first presentation was eliminate all short-term rentals. Doesn't sound like much of a compromise. Was going to start there, right? So the committee was, in my opinion, did not have a proper objective. They didn't have any binding rules that they had to follow. They didn't even really know what they were trying to achieve. If you asked most of them, they were there, and some of them are here today,
yeah.
You didn't know exactly what you were trying to achieve. So it isn't really that much of a surprise that it didn't get achieved.
We can do better about that, or are we just talking about the question?
Hold on. We're gonna maintain decorum. Each of the persons can make their comment. If you'd like to have discussion with the candidates afterwards, you're more than free to go up and talk to the candidates afterwards. So please, we've done a great job up to this point. Let's maintain it, okay? All right. Fred, do you want to continue for?
Yeah, I'll just make a quick comment. I'm talking about both sides, okay? They weren't prepared for a compromise. I don't believe either side was prepared for that. There was no organization to it. Let me just say, from a conflict management standpoint, it was poorly managed. And that's my opinion. Other people may have other opinions, but I think we can do better than that.
All right.
I know we can do better than that.
Thank you. The next question is, and I'll offer this up to anyone that would like to comment. I currently don't trust the board. What can you do to earn my trust?
Transparency.
I was going to say the same thing. I think that I talked about this earlier. Transparency creates trust, right? So whether you like me or you don't like me, or you don't agree with what my thoughts are, it's not about me per se. It's about me doing my job in a way that you guys can see specifically as a treasurer where our funds are being utilized, right? Both from an expense standpoint as well as how we're preparing for the future from an investment standpoint. And then everything else really should be in the people's hands, right? It should be votes of the people. It should be the influence of the people. I think over time, that transparency will create trust, and hopefully we can come back together, have a drink and pick.
And transparency, including the voting process. You know, it was mentioned that I didn't understand part of the voting process. Well, I'm here to assure you that a vast majority of our community doesn't understand the voting process, how it's done, what the process is, and that creates distrust. If you can't see what's going on, and you get the interpretation that nobody wants you to see what's going on, which is a lot of what we see today, that is bad optics. Even if everything is being done on the up and up and correctly, it gives the impression of that the process should not be trusted.
Any other final comments from anyone?
We're talking about the board, not the voting process. The voting process is outlined in the bylaws and everything else. Transparency, I think it's a great one. Ability via technology, Zoom, to involve all the community, including the ones that are now here. More open forums where we can just have discussions like this, as long as they are civil. There's no threats, there's no swearing, there's no aggressive behavior, no intimidation, no bullying, and have that exchange and information with the community. All for that, I plan to have them at least quarterly, hopefully, and have interaction with all the members to create that trust.
All right. Thank you, Bob. Pat, this question was directed to you. In your campaign statement, you state that the Tennessee Nonprofit Corporation Act requires a name be printed and signed on each ballot. Can you please provide the section where that requirement is specified?
Well, that's true.
Yeah,
That's true.
I'm just asking the questions, okay?
Yeah, that's true. You are required to sign and print your name on the ballots. That's why we did that. And that's the Nonprofit Corporation Act. What section that is, I could look it up if I had my book with me, but it is in the part of voting in the TCA. So.
Thank you. Anyone wish to comment?
I trust you.
All right. Pat, I just randomly pulled your name again, so I'll just go to another question here and we'll see what we can come up. Yeah, you're getting a lot of questions here. I'm just randomly picking. Ed, electronic voting, would that provide additional transparency? RE, was my vote counted?
Yeah, I think it can. I think from my perspective, the electronic voting is really more about giving people access, right? Making sure that everybody, like if you're on vacation and your ballot got mailed to your house and you're going to be back for a while, because I know we have an older community in some cases where they do travel substantially. It's really more about access than it was accountability from a my vote counting standpoint. But there is absolutely ways to be able to see the total sent or available, I guess, and who actually came in, that kind of thing. So.
Stacy?
I agree with that. I don't know that we can provide total accessibility if it's electronic voting, because so many people don't know about it.
Yep.
You also have people like my mom who doesn't know a cell phone.
Right.
You know,
Or
so there's that.
To all candidates,
You can do either in those platforms.
to all candidates, since this will not be Zoom Teams, would the candidates be open to another greet, which would be Zoom only?
Oh, this wasn't on Zoom? I've been smiling the whole time. I thought this was being out all over the country. All right, camera. No, all right. Yeah. I'm open to whatever, yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Quick question, who here has not decided yet which way they're voting? Thanks, one person, so yeah, I mean.
I'm happy to do
Well, I'll
whatever.
make a Connie's house later though, okay?
I think in all fairness, though, is that, we're all here in this meeting, we've opened up other forums, but there are over 520 lots.
So we did talk, I talked to Michelle earlier though about, or I think it was Margie, to maybe post a video or a link to it on the community board.
Yeah.
And maybe a YouTube link. What I prefer, if they show snippets, to show the whole question and answer versus, selective.
Well, you've all commented on transparency,
Yeah.
so we'll
I think
go
that'd be
into
great,
that
people can see
premise.
it.
General, why can't we change bylaws to have ballot signatures on the envelope, not ballots? We could then have transparency when someone questions vote outcomes.
What was the question? I didn't get to the question.
The question is, why
On the envelope.
can't we change bylaws to have ballot signatures on the envelope, not the ballot themselves? We could then have, I guess in essence, it's going back to those guidelines that were created in 2018.
Well, you'd have to look at the Tennessee.
That way
I
we
think
could have
there's a lot of
transparency
options to
when
make,
someone
to
questions vote
continue the
outcome.
privacy, but be more transparent. I think there's a lot of options. The platforms that Ed discussed, they do have recording capability. Not so much that it violates privacy, but it would tell you that your vote did count. And I think a lot of people, I've talked to a lot of people. I literally talked to, I think last count, 320-ish Lone Mountain community owners, myself, either on the phone or via text and email over the last 2 years. And I can tell you a lot of people don't know that. Did my vote even count? Well, I don't know. They don't know, nobody knows. So I think that one of the things electronic voting will help with is you would know if your vote counted, or if it was discounted for some unknown reason. So I think it would add some transparency. There's a lot of I guess what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of methods. Maybe I could explore something like that. I've never heard that before though, so I'm not sure.
Okay.
If it meets
Thank
the
you very
regulations, yeah.
Wasn't that the way the voting used to happen? You signed the envelope and not the ballot?
No.
There was no signature.
We will go on to the next question. The question is, fishing camp driving in. As part of the new board, how will you address this issue? For those that live here, you may be used to it, but those not being here or who have lived here for years, it truly looks bad.
Fishing
Pardon?
What's the fishing?
I think the comment is that it looks a little bit, it
What
has
does?
the feel of a distressed property in
What
many
does?
areas.
Where?
Pardon?
The
What?
gypsy camp?
Yeah, I think in general, the comment, that the question is saying that the condition and looks of the general community in multiple areas does not look commensurate with how it's had in the past.
That's not what's
Yeah,
on it.
fishing camp, like, it looks more like,
Is it that area down
yeah.
at the end of Blue Top Road there? where-
I think, I have no idea, but
Well,
I think
that's
what
the-
they
They
is that when you drive around the community looking at docks, front entrance, all of the areas, roadsides, those areas, I sense from the question that they're
Well,
saying
the
that
question
it
is
has
talking about
felt
fishing
very
camp.
different
I
in
have
the
no idea what the
past.
fishing camp is.
I think there's some things we could do to improve the look of our community.
You can always make it better.
I think roadside mowing is declined significantly. It looks to me a mess. There's a lot of things we could do, I think, better moving forward. I don't really know what fishing camp is, other than the first thing that came to mind were those people that fish in tents out there at the bottom.
There's
But it could be-
there's a full-grown community in the woods. If you look in the woods though, there's like little.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
It's not
cabins
easy to
and stuff
see
like
though.
that.
Those people in the
They're
tents right next to
camouflaged.
the road, you
Yeah.
can see them. right there.
The trash gets picked up 2 weeks later, it's back.
I think I'm going to ask this question of generally to everyone. It's directed at one person, but we'll just go down the line very quickly. I think most of you have answered it, but if you have not, we'll ask you to answer the question. Do you support the current lawsuit filed by the board against owners short-term renting their homes? Why or why not? Pat,
Well,
you've
I
stated it.
I
Yeah.
think, like I said before, we have to resolve this issue, and that's the only way you can really do it. And, yes.
Okay. Stacy?
I said the same thing, I support it just because I would like a final resolution.
She needs to speak up. I'm
I'm
sorry.
so sorry.
Microphone.
Oh, you can speak up. I know, it's always so many people on microphone. Yes, I support, the lawsuit for final resolution, so we can move forward finally. I think that there's so much contention right now that it just cannot be handled, within the community, so let's finish the process.
Let's shoot this horse. I mean, we talked about it. I
Yeah,
gave
yeah,
you the 5
okay.
answers why, yeah.
Thank you.
I don't. I think there's lots of better ways we can spend our money. I think this lawsuit is specifically targeted against about 22 homeowners in the community. And I think if that's what we're shooting for, then 22 specific people shouldn't be named. So if you want a judicial response, there are other ways that could have been done, probably cheaper also. But again, I'm gonna go back to the fact this is our document. The covenants is not, it's not the Bible, okay? It can be changed, and it will be changed, guaranteed. We wrote it, we put it together, we publish it as a community. We can tell ourselves what it says. If you want to put it to a vote, it says yes, no lawsuit, no lawsuit, to the entire community, then that would change things. I might have to support that. But that hasn't happened either.
Pat, I'll come back to you, but
So I support resolution. I do not support the legal lawsuit. I feel like it's a waste of our HOA resources that can be used for the greater good within the community.
Ron?
I
Yes or
support
no?
meeting the resolution, okay? And how that resolution is if it's, the community wants to continue with this lawsuit, then we continue with the lawsuit. It's gonna cost a great deal of money. The end result may be, we're gonna have to have a special assessment to our annual dues. I don't want that. I don't want that at all. But we do need a resolution to what is actually stated in the documents. And then, once you get that resolution, then we need to take this living document and make sure that it conforms in all aspects with law and our governing laws in our local and state, so that we are in compliance, okay? And then it has to be reviewed, I don't know, every year or every couple of years to make sure what it says, it doesn't go against anything outside the community, inside the community, or against
Thank you,
state
Ron.
law.
Thank you.
10 seconds.
Pat, you wanted to make a comment?
Yeah, since 1998, I lived here, and I was here when the original covenants came out. Those were given to us by the developer, and what we're fighting over right now is what the lawyers wrote in that original covenants: no commercial businesses and single-family residences. Those came from a lawyer, I suspect. We didn't write them. That's what we're doing. Also, the costs, there's all kinds of lawyer fees involved in there. We have lien fees that we do. Everybody has to, the lawyer files liens on this. They don't break those out separately. It's just billed hourly. And so there's a lot of costs that you're attributing to this lawsuit. Also, a lot of this, there's a bunch of frivolous lawsuits been filed against the board, which we have to defend ourselves against. And so those costs have been added, I suspect double the cost of the original lawsuit, trying to get this judicial ruling. So yes, there's a lot of money, but I don't think we're ever going to have to do a special assessment to pay for this. We're in good shape.
Thank you, Pat. This question is specifically to Ed, Fred, and Ron. It has some specific names in it, so I will take those names out and paraphrase it. But it said, individuals on the mountain have had numerous problems with rentals nearby with excessive noise, strewn trash, and parking overflow. Why would you want the community subjected to that?
I can start that first, you don't mind?
Go ahead.
I was actually talking to Claudia earlier about this, right? So I think people kind of stereotype and just think, well, you short-term rental, that's all you care about is the rental income. And that's not true, right? Like, I personally believe that if short-term rentals are allowed in the community, there needs to be strict guidelines in regard to what is allowed with your short-term rental, and the owner should be held accountable. Whether that be a significant fine or whether that be something else. Like, I think there should be noise ordinance. I think there should be trash. I actually am not personally an advocate of short-term rentals using common areas like this or the docks, personally. I think it just exposes us to things that are unneeded. And so I think in answering that question, no, I don't think they should be exposed to that. But I also don't think that you should strip out someone's property rights for the few bad apples, right? I bet you everybody here is stayed at a VRBO or an Airbnb or some other type of place, and you're all good people. You probably didn't play your music loud, probably didn't leave trash out, you probably weren't belligerent to the neighbor, right? Unfortunately, not everybody's like that. There are some few bad apples. And so should there be restrictions and requirements and rules in place? Absolutely. And the owner should be held accountable. That way they vet their people.
The community actually had said in the past that we think there should be restrictions and rules in place, and we think owners should be held accountable. This was where the bylaw change from 2 years ago came from. We were trying to get instituted and was negated by the current board. If that bylaw change had been put through, we would all have rules posted in our house. We would all have things in place where owners would be held accountable for those things. That was decided against by 5 people, what the majority of our community did want. So I think going back to that, that's a great launching pad where we would have these rules and accountability and a control on the program. And I think those limited instances where there's noise or trash or whatever could be controlled relatively easy. So I wouldn't want to subject the community to that at all.
Ron?
I agree with having rules in place. Some of those rules are already in the covenants bylaws about noise and quiet hours. But, Ed, you said common areas shouldn't be available to the short-term rentals. I agree 100%. That opens you up for a lot of issues. So let's put something in place if the resolution says short-term rentals or gives the definition that allows for short-term rentals. And if it doesn't, let's put it to rest. but let's make sure that everything is clear and concise so that everyone can understand and you don't have to have a law degree to interpret.
Thank you, Ron. This question is for the two president candidates. And the bylaws state that the president is a spokesperson for the community. How will your term be different from our current president? Claudio?
I just think going forward and finding solutions. I think right here, there's the start of compromise going forward. If the legal judgment comes up, says they're legal, hey, we start right here, setting up the rules, the guidelines, and making sure that everybody's clear on that. So I think everything we've already talked, transparency, working through compromise with both parties willing to compromise, not being obstinate, and being open with the community.
Going back to the specific question, how I would address that is if you go back through the minutes of our board meetings, what you used to see in the minutes was a report from the president. And there would be it was relatively long, it took a little bit to get through, but every month you had words of the president transcribed and posted on our message board or on our website, giving a monthly report. That's been lacking for a long time now. We don't. The last couple of board meetings, there wasn't even a president report. So I intend to become very transparent on that too. I want to give minimally monthly statements, both written on the website, and I've even considered doing a video one where we can publish a video each month of the board talking, to the community, giving them an update on where we're at, where we're going, and what's transpired in the last 30 days.
Thank you. Well, this question is for basically everyone. I'll allow you to discern whether you want to answer the question or not. But the question is, and we'll just kind of go down the line, have you ever rented a home in Lone Mountain Shores for 2 weeks or less?
No.
No?
No.
Stacy, no?
I have.
Okay.
Yes, I have.
Yes.
No.
No, you
Okay.
What, 2 weeks or less?
No, you
Have I rented a home or do I rent my home?
Have you rented a home?
Oh,
No.
I have not.
Oh, yeah, what was that?
My bad.
I'm not interested in my rented my home.
He's all right in the face.
We're gonna just allow one more question, and then we will open it up that everyone can meet with the candidates and ask questions. And I would suggest that if we didn't get to your question, if you would like to post that maybe as a question to the candidate on the message board, you're more than welcome to do that. So it basically is directed towards Ed and Fred. Why should you expect the members to follow what you say or enforce if you are elected? You didn't abide by the current board's enforcement.
I disagree. I believe both attorneys, both my attorney and even the board's attorney, publicly stated on record that in their opinion, until a judicial decision came down, that we should be allowed to continue the short-term rental. And that was a part of my decision way back when. I believe the board's attorney communicated that directly to our attorney and to Richard Graves, who's other people's attorneys. And so the covenants as they're written right now, regardless of what you think or say, are vague. And there's a lot of supporting documents that go into, you can't just dissect out single-family residential, pull it out, and apply a meaning from case law to it. There are other documents in place in this community that contradict that. And if anybody doesn't know that, I'd be happy to show you exactly what those are. Sworn testimony, documents that specifically say what kind of rentals are and are not allowed from the board of directors of Lone Mountain Shores. Those carry legal precedence, those carry legal weight, and they're valid documents.
Thank you, Fred. Ed?
Well, so, first of all, I did comply. I received a cease and desist, and I stopped renting my home. So, I was under the interpretation that we're going to work this thing out, we're going to figure it out, change the bylaws or the covenants, and kind of move forward. And when that happened, then I would make my decision to move forward. However, after I stopped renting, I was then sued for renting my home, which within this lawsuit, they had no pictures, no evidence, no nothing. It was just a lawsuit that stated that I continued to rent my home, which was not true. And so that was a breach of contract. In addition to that, it's my interpretation that short-term rentals are allowed. I've been here for a while. We rent our house maybe 8 to 10 weeks at most per year. We come down 6 to 8 weeks every year. We enjoy our house, right? It's a supplemental income for our enjoyment. So why should you believe me? Listen, you know, you don't have to, I guess. You're more welcome to get to know me as a person. I've been called a lot of things in the Q&A that aren't true, like I'm not a slumlord or anything like that.
It's a nice house, actually, so.
But the fact is, listen, I did comply, then I was sued. It was basically, this all comes down to brass taxes. There's no clear definition. My interpretation, someone else's interpretation, you have different legal interpretations. It needs to be clearly defined. Because my interpretation is such that I believe that short-term rentals are allowed, we again started short-term
Thank you,
renting.
Ed.
Any follow-up? Well, you know what? Started in
I
first
want
law.
to give the candidates if you want to get to church, you're going to miss the passing of the peace, and but you can probably head out and make the
Take some
11
with you.
o'clock service. And please grab some food.